If you cry easily, there's a high chance you've spent part of your life believing something was wrong with you. Maybe you were told you're too sensitive. Maybe you learned to apologize for your tears. Maybe you trained yourself to swallow emotions just to look stronger. But here's the part no one told you, and science backs this up. Crying easily is not a weakness. It's not a lack of control. And it's definitely not emotional immaturity. In fact, people who cry easily often have something most people never fully develop. But here's the part no one told you, and science backs this up. Crying easily is not a weakness. It's not a lack of control. And it's definitely not emotional immaturity. In fact, people who cry easily often have something most people never fully develop: an emotionally responsive system. We live in a world that rewards numbness, being unbothered, being tough, being able to move on without feeling too much. So when someone feels deeply, reacts emotionally, or tears up under pressure, they stand out. Not because they're broken, but because they're different from what society normalizes. Here's something fascinating. Humans are the only species on this planet that shed emotional tears. Not because we're weak, but because our brains evolved to process emotion through release. Nature didn't design tears by accident. Tears are part of regulation. They're part of balance. They're part of how the human nervous system returns to center. So if you cry during arguments, sad scenes, or moments of emotional overload, it doesn't mean you're losing control. It means your system is responding honestly, and honesty is rare. Most people don't feel less than you. They feel less accurately. They suppress. They disconnect. They intellectualize emotions instead of processing them. You don't. And that's why it feels intense. Because intensity isn't the problem. Unprocessed emotion is. People who cry easily aren't fragile. They're emotionally awake. They notice shifts faster. They feel changes sooner. They respond before emotions calcify into numbness. And this is where the misunderstanding begins. Because society confuses emotional sensitivity with emotional weakness. Psychology doesn't, and once you understand what's actually happening in the brain of someone who cries easily, the story changes completely. Here's what most people never learn about crying. Tears don't come from weakness, they come from processing. Psychologists have found that people who cry easily don't just feel emotions, they process them in real time. Your brain doesn't push feelings to the background, it brings them to the front. Areas like the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex react faster to emotional change. That means you notice shifts others miss, tone changes, tension, unspoken emotion. You feel it before it has words. And because your system is more aware, your body responds sooner. This isn't emotional instability, it's emotional sensitivity, and there's a difference. Unstable emotions are chaotic. Sensitive emotions are accurate. People who cry easily often experience emotions at full resolution, not muted, not delayed, not numbed. That's why holding it in feels exhausting. Suppressing emotion for you isn't neutral, it's costly. And here's something important. When emotions aren't processed, they don't disappear, they get stored. Stored tension becomes anxiety. Stored sadness becomes heaviness. Stored emotion becomes stress in the body. Crying is the opposite of that. It's release. In fact, emotional tears are chemically different from reflex tears. They carry stress hormones out of the body. They signal the nervous system to slow down. So crying isn't losing control. Crying is your body restoring balance. And this is why people who cry easily often recover faster after emotional moments. They may feel more in the moment, but they don't carry it as long. They move through emotion instead of around it. That ability creates something powerful, emotional clarity. You don't stay confused about how you feel. You don't suppress discomfort until it explodes later. You process, release, and recalibrate. That's not fragility. That's a nervous system that knows how to reset. And once you understand this, crying stops looking like a flaw. It starts looking like a system that's actually working. Here's where this starts to matter beyond just understanding yourself. People who cry easily aren't just emotionally aware. They're emotionally influential. And that's something most people never realize. Because while the world praises toughness, real connection is built by something else entirely: sensitivity. People who feel deeply don't just notice emotions, they read them. They sense shifts in tone, changes in energy, what's being said, and what's being avoided. This is why emotionally sensitive people often become the emotional anchors in rooms without trying to. They're the ones others open up to, the ones people trust instinctively, the ones who notice tension before it explodes. And no, this isn't accidental. Psychology shows that emotional attunement is one of the strongest foundations of leadership, influence, and meaningful connection. Not dominance, not loud confidence, attunement. When you cry easily, it usually means your emotional radar is highly developed. You don't just react to life, you receive it. And that's exactly why so many sensitive people end up as creators, healers, teachers, leaders, and visionaries. They feel what others overlook. They notice when something is off, even when everything looks fine on the surface. They don't need chaos to feel alive. They don't need drama to feel important. They feel meaning in subtleties, in pauses, in tone shifts, in moments other people rush past. This is also why society often misunderstands them. A world obsessed with productivity, speed, and emotional suppression doesn't know what to do with people who feel openly, so it labels them. Too sensitive, too emotional, too soft. But psychology tells a very different story. Sensitivity isn't weakness, it's emotional sophistication. It's the ability to process information most people ignore. And here's something powerful most people never connect. Emotional intelligence, not IQ, not raw talent, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success, healthy relationships, and leadership effectiveness. And emotional intelligence starts with one thing: feeling. People who cry easily already recognize emotions faster than others. They understand them more intuitively. They respond to them more honestly. That means they're already ahead. The only difference between a sensitive person who struggles and one who thrives is not feeling less. It's learning how to channel what they feel, to turn sensitivity into clarity, emotion into communication, empathy into boundaries. The best leaders aren't the ones who never feel overwhelmed. They're the ones who feel deeply and act wisely anyway. They don't suppress emotion, they integrate it. And that's where sensitivity stops being something you apologize for and starts becoming something you build with. Here's the part most people never talk about. Crying easily isn't something that holds you back. It's something that reveals you. People who cry easily are often the ones who feel life in high resolution. They notice shifts others miss. They sense tension before words are spoken. They feel joy, sadness, beauty, and loss more fully, not because they're weak, but because they're open. And openness is rare. In a world that teaches emotional armor, being able to feel deeply is a form of quiet courage. You see, emotional intelligence isn't about controlling feelings. It's about understanding them and knowing what to do because of them. Psychology consistently shows this. People who recognize emotions early and process them honestly tend to build stronger relationships, make wiser decisions, and recover faster from stress over time. Yes, they may struggle in the moment. Yes, tears may come quicker. But suppression doesn't create strength. Processing does. There's also something important to remember. Crying easily isn't always emotional. Stress, fatigue, overstimulation, hormones, even dehydration can lower the threshold for tears. That doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. And here's a powerful reframe. Maybe the world doesn't need you to be tougher. Maybe the world needs people who still feel, people who care deeply, who connect honestly, who notice what others overlook. Those are the people who change environments, who build trust, who lead quietly but impactfully. So if you cry easily, don't apologize for it. Your tears aren't a flaw. They're evidence that your empathy is alive, your nervous system is responsive, and your humanity is intact. And honestly, that's not common. That's powerful. If this made you see yourself differently, let me know in the comments. And if you want more psychology that goes deeper than labels, subscribe. This isn't just content, it's a mindset.